Hey guys, this is Dr. Logsdon. On this channel, I primarily make videos for students, although I will sometimes make one that is just for professors, and that's what this video is for. In this video, I am going to talk about the importance of discussion in the college classroom, how I handle it, as well as some research practices that show the benefit of it in helping your students learn. Now, I primarily teach underclassmen, and discussion is obviously an extremely important skill that students will need to learn for collegiate success. In fact, I had some graduate, doctoral level classes, and I might have even had some upper level undergrad classes that were 100% discussion based. And the class that I teach, I call my discussion, and I have discussion days. I have entire chunks of my class that are nothing but based around discussion of things we've read and have been studying. I call these days colloquia. Now, colloquia is a gathering of experts who are discussing a common topic. Now, I really like this language. This is why I use colloquia. I use it with my students. The reason why I really like this word and this meaning is that our students are the experts in the classroom. Now, they may not know the subject, but we want them to leave being the experts. A colloquia does not have to be the entire class period. Now, as I said, in one of my classes, roughly half my class meetings are entirely discussion based, but it doesn't have to be. You could do just part of a class as a class meeting as a colloquia. Every teacher and every student has taken part in great classroom discussions. And what I often think whenever I have these that are amazing is, how can I capture this magic again? And over my years of teaching, I found that prep work is by and large the best way for me to capture that magic routinely. As a professor, you'll need to prepare, you'll need to plan, you might even need to structure your planned discussion. But if you do these steps, your students will get so much more from it than they would just listening to you lecture. Before we get into that though, what are the benefits of a colloquia? Simply put, students learn more when discussing. We know this to be a fact. Discussion is active engagement at its finest. Now, we need to discuss discussion versus participation. Now, participating can include just silent, active listening, and this is important, but we want our students to discuss, and this is when students maximize their engagement. Now, if your class is too large, you can divide your students into groups and have each group wrestle with a different subject, topic, or a different question. However, unless your class is more than 50 students, I would highly recommend just doing a whole group discussion where you can be involved in the class as a whole. Now, in colloquia, students can share different viewpoints. They can share, a diverse array of perspectives. I've never really had to police this in the college classroom. In the 10 years I've been doing this, you'll have attentive and respectful listening. This shows respect for students' voices, their experiences. They're going to develop the skills of synthesis and integration. It even increases their general intellectual agility. So how does this happen? One thing that you will want to be aware of are the norms of the college classroom. Students often see discussion as unfocused class time, and that is not what a colloquia is at all. One of the ways you can keep this from happening is to make it regular. Do it regularly, schedule it, put questions on the board. Sometimes I will simply turn on my projector, I'll pull up a Microsoft Word document, and I will type the questions I want us to address as we address them on the board. To help offset any unfocused perspective, be the facilitator of the discussion and not the dictator of the discussion. One thing that I will routinely tell my students as they're discussing is, they'll say, all right, give me more. Tell me more. Give me more about this topic. Or I might say, who can help Miss Smith iron this out? Let's give her some, help her flesh this idea out. I get people involved in that way. One thing to also be aware of is there is civil attention and then there's actual attention. One thing that I do not allow on colloquia days, I do not let students put their head down. I do not let students play on technology. I don't permit it. I will call students out, and I make that rule known at the beginning. If you are playing on your phone, that is extremely disrespectful to your classmates. I actually have a cell phone surrender policy for extra credit that I'll do a video on to explain how I easily and safely eliminate technology distractions. But I'm very clear on it. If you are going to be in this class and take part in this discussion, technology up. Technology comes out, you're welcome to leave. When it comes to putting their heads down, if it's a day I'm lecturing, feel free, waste your tuition money. I think it's a bad choice, but you're an adult, I'm not going to mandate it. The exception is on colloquia days, because you're not just being disrespectful to your professor. Students who do that are being disrespectful to everyone else. Now, I will also say I've had very few instances that I've really had this be a problem. Most civil attention are students sitting there and they're just kind of zoned out. The way that there are ways to get around this. One is to make sure you learn your students' names. I have face blindness. I have a really hard time recognizing people's faces. Fortunately, I can recognize their voices, and colloquia is a way for me to learn their names really quickly. I always have a printout of my students' names for the first few weeks as I'm learning their names, what they wish to be called, any nicknames they want to be called, preferred names, whatever it is. And when we start doing colloquia, I will just simply ask, like, I'm sorry, I'm still learning names. Before you give me your comment, what's your name? All right, thanks. Jason, please go ahead. And I'll write the name down. I do that until I have everyone's names down pat. Positive reinforcement is another way to help go from civil attention to actual attention. I have had professors who were frankly terrible. They were bullies. Our students have had professors who are like that as well. If we can avoid being that professor, that's one way to get around this. I mean, I have witnessed it as a student, professors yelling at students for wrong answers. I remember a class when I was in an undergraduate, I remember a professor screamed till she was red in the face because a student made the mistake of checking her watch in her presence. I mean, these professors are an anomaly, but we know they exist. Obviously, don't be that professor. Another way to help with our students is to start with simple opinion questions. Give students time to formulate their thoughts, low-key, low-stakes questions and answers. I will also often encourage my students to have out their book and a sheet of paper to write down thoughts, to write down questions as they occur to them. Start your colloquia early in the semester. I mean, it's fine to start it late. If you're only deciding to do this toward the end, go ahead and start. But if you start in the first few weeks, your students will respond to it much more positively, and you'll help to build their confidence in it. Be explicit about how the colloquia can help them. Explain to them it can help you make connections between our course topic and the course application. One thing that I personally don't do, although I think professors do this, and there are some who do it extremely well, and that's to use guided notes. And that can help shift from civil attention to actual attention. Guided notes are where you have a partially filled out handout, and as students go through the discussion, they can complete sentences, fill in the blanks, answer questions. This could even be a way to assign grades, which we'll talk about here in a moment as well. The biggest thing that I have found with making sure students pay actual attention is to physically go near them. Now, with coronavirus, it's going to be very different when classes resume this fall. But prior to this, I would go stand near students who seemed like they had checked out a bit mentally. I would sometimes even sit at their table. I would lean on the wall near them, and I would walk all over the room. I would do this the entire class. Since I'm not using the board during a colloquia, it wasn't a problem. And I found that students paid a lot more attention if I happened to be near them. I mean, that's a given. I don't like to use the word safe space. I think it has a a connotation that we've used it so much it's lost its true meaning for how it should be used. But the fact of it is, our classroom needs to be a safe environment for our students. Don't be aggressive. Don't belittle students if they give a wrong answer. One of my mentors had this amazing ability that if you said the wrong answer, she would redirect it in a way that left you feeling positive about the fact that, hey, you gave it a real solid attempt. You weren't quite there, but we're going to get you over this hump together. She was amazing at that. I have not mastered it in the way that she did, but one way that I do, one thing that I routinely do is if a student if they say something that's just wrong, I might say, okay, well that's not quite what we're looking for here. Let's see if we can reshape this together. So rather than simply say, you're wrong and move on, see if you can guide them to the correct answer. Now, one issue that does come up, and it's come up in every class I've ever had, and that's dominant talkers. And you need to limit this, but there will also be days when people are quiet and you'll be happy to have the dominant talkers. What I will do to offset dominant talkers, and this has the benefit of not offending anyone, and it works to redirect, is I'll simply say, let's hear from someone who hasn't spoken up yet. Or maybe I haven't heard from this side of the room. I'm interested in hearing what you all have to say as well. Or, oh, this group has had some great insights. How about this group? What do you think? This shows respect for the talkers while also drawing out the quiet students. One international student issue that I have found is some students come from cultures where classroom discussions simply don't occur. The classes I teach are primarily activity and discussion based, and I've had students from countries who, when they realize it's not a simple lecture based class, they often don't really know what to do. They're not quite sure how to handle it. What I will do in this situation, you have to use kid gloves a lot. You have to do a lot more pulling, a lot more direct questioning, but usually by a few colloquia in, they've kind of realized, okay, this is the norm. This is how things are done here. With international students, I can often, express the concept. Feel free to take notes. Kind of treat this like a lecture where we're all involved in lecturing. Another thing you can do with both international students and shy students in general is what is called a 1-minute paper. So pose the question, set a timer for a minute, and encourage writing. And again, just like with the guided notes, you can also turn this in for a grade if you would like. Now, some people grade colloquia or the discussions and some don't. I always grade. That's my personal preference. I keep a notebook. If I walk around the room, I've got a notebook and pen in my hand, and I write down names. And if I don't know a student's name, I ask. This is usually for the first 2 weeks. By the end of the second week, I've usually got the students' names down. I let students know at the very beginning, silence is a 0. Civil attention, actual attention, if you're not speaking up ever, you're going to get a 0. You can even make a rubric. Now, I also make this claim, and I've had many students take me up on it, because I understand some students are just inherently shy. They don't necessarily know what to say. They're afraid of saying something wrong and getting made fun of. So I will tell my students, if you are shy and you are worried that you may not have the gumption or the energy to jump in, let me know privately. Send me an email, ask me outside of class, tell me, I am shy, I want to participate, but I know I won't participate unless you call on me. If a student tells me that, like, hey, will you please call on me to make sure I get my points, I will always make sure to call on them in a way that does not single them out. And it works quite well. I'll also, near the last 5 minutes of class, I might even say, remember, your discussion is for a grade, and here are the people that I've heard from. If your name is not on this list, I need to make sure you speak up here at the end. So in my class, the way I structure it, there's never a chance you will accidentally leave colloquia without points. Conversely, I also have colleagues who never grade, and they still have effective discussions. One of my colleagues has made the statement that he thinks by not grading, it takes the pressure off and students are more free to discuss. That's his preference and it works great for him. I just prefer to do it this way. So those are my thoughts on colloquia. There is a great textbook called Discussion in the College Classroom. The link for this will be in the description of this video. This is all, again, it's science, it's research based. We know these things work. So if you are interested in seeing how colloquia works, give it a shot. Please subscribe. If you would like more tips, leave a comment in the sections down below. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.